Welcome to a very special episode of the Waffle Shop podcast. Today, not only am I joined by my glamorous co-host for today, Tim, from the other side of the pond, I'm joined by the hilarious Abigoliah. How are you doing? How are you both doing? Welcome to the Waffle Shop.
I'm good.
I feel like I should point at it's your turn to speak.
Because we're on Zoom, it's always like we record our podcast on Zoom too. So whenever you ask an open thing, there's just this pause of like, who goes first?
Well, ladies
There's
go
no
first.
real eye contact. Um, no, I'm good. I'm good. I have nothing big to report. Things are fine.
It's going to be a very short episode.
Yeah, there we go. Once I get going, stuff comes up. But I'm always like, fine, nothing. And then someone asks me something and then I'm off. So
yeah. I feel like you've kind of set him up now because Tim, I feel like you're going to bring a lot of kind of...
Yeah, I'm actually doing really good today. Most days I'm not, but I'm excited to be here, man. Once you asked me to come on this episode, I've been really good. And now I meet a new friend as well. So this is great.
yay.
See, just a gift that keeps on giving this show.
Yeah.
But it's a very interesting topic. And I feel like it's one that we kind of all relate to. But before we get into that, I start each one of my shows with something called the weekly waffle, which is something so minor that gets on my nerves that, quite frankly, I love moaning about. And I thought, as I've got two people from across the pond here on today's show, the thing that's been kind of winding me up lately is pumpkin spice lattes.
Disgusting.
Oh, okay.
I like them.
Right.
I'm very basic.
This is
like
what I wanted.
I also used to be a yoga instructor, and I'm used to have live, laugh, learn somewhere in the house. I'm unabashedly that person at times.
Are you just always cold too?
Yeah. Just lots of sweaters.
Scarves everywhere.
Yeah, lots of scarves, Ugg boots, and leggings. I don't own anything with a
Boots
button.
always look really comfy, but I feel like you just can't. But then I feel like Crocs are more acceptable now in the UK. So I feel like maybe one day we'll be able to wear, men will be able to wear Ugg boots. You never know.
I think Ugg boots were originally for men, weren't they?
Were they?
I have no idea.
I might have just made that up.
I don't think they're American. In my head, I'm like, look at those boots. They're clearly German. If they're not German, they're European of some sort.
I think they're Australian.
Are they? Why are Australians
Why do they
wearing
need
Ugg
boots?
boots? Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm making both of these things up. I think I just probably had a dream about this right now, so I don't know.
This is the first time and the last time I co-host with you. You're a
Yes. My fact checking is terrible.
Good one job. Do you know what my favorite thing is when the Ugg boots kind of get worn down and they kind of turn in at the side? I quite like seeing that when I'm out.
I just did a quick search. In 1978, a young Australian surfer founded the Ugg brand on the shores of Southern California.
Oh.
Learn something new every day.
Well, look at that.
You're welcome.
All the way from pumpkin spice to Ugg boot facts.
You know what? I feel like I'm literally just brought you both on here to trash Americans. This is not what I'm doing, I promise you.
I can't speak for Tim, but I'm used to it.
I've had one chart and I've literally taken it on this podcast. But yeah, no, I find them really irritated. Now all of a sudden they're everywhere, and there's someone at work who every time I walk in with a Starbucks cup, they're like, "Oh, is it a pumpkin spice latte?" I'm like, "You said that 2 days ago, and it wasn't funny then. So what makes you think it's going to be funny now?"
Here's a question: do you hate the way it tastes, or do you hate the fact that it's now like a meme?
I mean, the smell of pumpkin, I love Halloween, but the smell of pumpkin makes me feel a little bit queasy. And it's just kind of like getting your hand in there and just scooping it out.
Yep.
I just
Pumpkins
don't
freak me
like
out too.
it.
Yeah, they're gross.
And I think that in a hot form that people drink just makes me feel a little bit queasy.
Okay, I just need to clarify this real quick. Pumpkin spice doesn't have pumpkin in it. It is like cinnamon and nutmeg but it's called pumpkin spice, but there's no actual pumpkin in it. I'm actually gonna double check that right now.
It was created in Australia by a Southern California.
Yeah. It's made of cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, cloves, and allspice. And allspice is basically pumpkin spice.
Oh, there it is.
Spice Girl, to be fair.
Yeah, pumpkin spice, my favorite Spice Girl. Zigga zigga.
I'll tell you what I don't want is pumpkin spice latte.
Yeah.
Well, it's quite apparent where this episode is going to go. Like, I think this episode is going to be the actual definition of the waffle shop. So I don't know what's going to happen. I'm really sorry that you're having to deal with this. But one of the big things that I do want to talk about, and I think, like I said it before, like we all kind of relate to the correlation between like mental health and comedy. With yourself, Abigoliah, obviously now your career, like you're getting on stage and obviously you're kind of essentially kind of like pouring your heart out, but in like a funny way. I kind of wanted to kind of get your opinion on this, because I imagine being on stage anyway is obviously quite a vulnerable place to be, but your style of comedy, like, do you pull from those kind of places and experiences?
Yeah, there's a lot to say on this. I definitely do autobiographical stuff, so I will pull from I do pull from my real life, and sometimes it's the sadder, darker parts. It's interesting because there's this trope, or there's a thing sometimes comedians will say, especially like when they're trying out new material. If it doesn't do well, they'll just shrug and go, "Oh, this is like free therapy for me anyways," and everyone laughs, and that is always drove me mad, because I'm like, no, it's not therapy, it is entertainment. Your job is to be funny and entertaining. This is not supposed to be therapy for you. That is inappropriate. I don't know why, but that has always bugged me. And then the pandemic happened and I couldn't perform for 2 years, and you know what I realized? It had been therapy all along.
Very therapeutic.
Yeah,
You needed it.
yeah. Oh, totally. But yeah, I definitely draw from some frustrating places or sad places or dark places. Like my last show that I did in Edinburgh was called Legally Cheeky, and I talked about me and my partner going through the immigration process here in the UK and how my visa was denied. Spoiler alert, I got it in the end. It's very weird to perform it and be like, did I get it or didn't I?
How dramatic.
Wow,
Like
you're
dry ice and everything.
in the UK. But I will say it's something to draw on and work from, for sure. Like if like tragedy in your life and stuff. But I cannot be funny when I am in a dark place. So like I can write jokes about a depressive episode after the fact, but I cannot write jokes when I am depressed or when I am like super stressed, like when I was going through the immigration issues. I do need to be in a good mental headspace in order to, because comedy is about being funny, but being funny is also, for me, about being fun. And that's really hard to do when you're in a bad space.
No, I think it's a very interesting thing. And kind of, Tim, I want to throw it at you as well, like with the same kind of question. Like, so obviously with the podcasts and stuff, obviously you're very open and honest about what you talk about and like your journey. But obviously I relate to it because it's kind of done in a comedic kind of fashion. But do you have a similar thing? Like, do you kind of pull from dark experiences, and how do you find that or balance that?
Yeah, I think I always said my taste in music and my sense of humor is what kept me alive. And I'm like a little bit different from you, that I make jokes when I'm in this like dark, deep place, because it's like that little glimmer of hope that's like holding me together. So like making disparaging jokes about myself and that, and be like, I'm just being a big baby when I have like a bipolar episode. So I'd be like, oh, I'm not feeling too good. Wah. Like I'll just make fun of myself right then, because I know I sound ridiculous. And then I'll make like really bad jokes, like not bad jokes, but like jokes after the fact that like you get out of those dark moments. Like one of the jokes I make, and it doesn't really land with people, is I tried to commit suicide via hanging, and it was on May 5th, 2019. So I say my day was almost Cinco de Hango. And people like either they laugh at it or they don't, but it's for me. And it's what makes me smile and makes me laugh. So comedy, like watching comedy, listening to comedy, telling jokes to people. Like I did stand up for a little bit, just open mics, but comedy is such a big, powerful tool for me because laughter is the best medicine. And I feel like you could agree to that.
Yeah, totally.
With this, because obviously I have a big thing with this, that obviously being a mental health podcast, and to be honest, I imagine even from the comedy world as well, like you do kind of pull on those kind of experiences. Do either of you ever kind of feel like a sense of guilt when you're in a good place? Because obviously we're very open and honest about like our journey with mental health and whatever it might be, but sometimes I find like when we post or we talk about like the bad stuff, that's what does better. But then when you talk about like, oh, I'm really happy, like I'm in a really good place, it doesn't quite hit as well from like a comedy point of view. Is that a similar thing, or have you found that?
You want to go first, Tim, or do you want me to go first?
Oh, I'll go first here. I feel like a fraud. I feel like that when I do like positive things, like people expect me to be sad because I'm open with being bipolar and being like manic depressive and all that. So it's interesting because I have that feeling too. Like it's like I shouldn't be doing this. Like I should be showing my darker side opposed to like, oh, I'm feeling pretty good today. But sometimes I'm manic, so that kind of shows you like he's just being manic. So we don't know if he's doing good or not.
Is he happy or is he having an episode? That's what people ask as they scroll your
$1 million
socials.
question.
Exactly.
Yeah, so fun fact about me. Like if we're talking about like putting stuff out there on social media and stuff, I very, very, very rarely put out a like, oh, things are going shit for me post. And I know some people do it all the time and are like really open about that stuff. I am not. It's a fun little thing because my boyfriend is always like, you should talk about that more. And I'm like, I don't think so. And I attribute that to my childhood because I grew up in a very small town. My dad was a doctor. He was also a raging alcoholic. And like I grew up in this whole idea of just keeping up appearances. Like it doesn't matter what's happening at home. Everything is always fine. And now I'm 36 and I've just embraced it as a mantra. And I think it's healthy. You know, there's nothing, this isn't a trauma response or anything like that. And then as far as like when things are actually going good, do I feel bad? And the answer is no. I will say, like, I think comedy can, like I said, I hate it when people say it's therapy, but then I realized it's been therapy all along. So like, I think it's good that people talk about when they're in dark places or going through bipolar episodes and they're making and they're being funny about it because that makes it more accessible and digestible for people. And then other people who might be going through similar situations kind of are like, oh, it's not all that bad, or just able to laugh at themselves. I think that's a very healthy thing. I think it's good to make jokes and make fun of, not as in like throw rocks, but you know, make light of dark situations. I think this is a very healthy thing. I, however, think it is unhealthy to think you have to be in a dark space in order to make good art or good comedy. I think that's a really toxic trope or idea that has been bandying about for years and years and years, that in order to be funny you have to be miserable, and I just couldn't disagree with it more. I remember in college I took a psychology class, and I asked the teacher, because at the time, I think in the news, even it was like, oh, are Americans over medicated when it comes to like antidepressants and stuff? I raised my hand and I asked my teacher, I was like, do you think people are over medicated when it comes to antidepressants? And she's like, I don't know. What do you think? And I was like, yes. And she just kind of pauses and she just goes, some people work so hard just to stay at the line. they're using so much energy just to stay at the line. And if they have medication to help them maintain the line, then they could use that energy to make art. And that has stuck with me ever since.
That's pretty deep.
That's a. Well, I was about to say that's like kind of a bit of a tough pill to swallow, but then it would have been an awful kind of.
Because I feel like I'm that way. I get to that line where like I can just barely get by it to do my podcast. Because like some days I'm like, yeah, I can do it, but like, all right, I give a little bit more effort, and I'm like, oh, okay, like I can really get into it and like edit my episodes and stuff. So yeah, that resonates with me a little bit. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I think mental health and stand-up comedy, like people talk about it and are open to it in some ways, but I still think, especially in comedy, I hear so many comics like be like, we need to talk about mental health. Let's talk about mental health. It's good to talk about mental health. And then they'll be interviewing someone and be like, I myself am depressed. Now I have chosen not to take medication. And I'm like, then you just ruined everything. Like, we don't tell people who have a bad heart not to take heart medication and just to work through it. Like, so in medication is a very complicated thing. It works well for some people. It works not so well for others. I'm really on a roll now. I haven't talked all day, so
Perfect.
yeah. When I said things were going fine, I lied. I've been on the couch watching Come Strictly in just a total burnout all day, but I've been on and off antidepressants since I was a kid, basically, and they took me above, to the line, but I never thought, I was never like, this is how I'm supposed to feel. Because for me and a lot of people, antidepressants cut you off from the top as well as the bottom. You want to get out of the bottom, but then all of the sudden you can't reach the top of your emotions either. And then I got diagnosed with ADHD a couple years ago, a year and a half ago, a year ago. I'm bad with time. It's been recent.
It's been a rough.
That's an ADHD thing.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah,
It is.
I'm the same way.
And I started taking medication for my ADHD. And when I had my assessment, and I was like, the next thing I want to do is start therapy and start to work on something for, maybe get help with my depression. And the doctor was like, let's start you on meds first for ADHD, because I have a feeling once you start your ADHD meds, your depression symptoms will go away. And they did. And it's not that I can't still feel sad, or like I told you, I've been kind of like in a bit of a burnout today. And it's not that I still don't have days where I struggle, but my ability to like go out and engage with the world is increased like tenfold. And I still have the whole range of my emotions. I can be sad, I can be angry, I can cry. I can also be happy, I can cry with joy. I still have a sex drive. Like all of that still exists as well. I don't know exactly why that's happened, other than it's like regulating my dopamine. So maybe it was never a serotonin problem. Maybe it's always been a dopamine problem. But that was just a fascinating thing that happened with me when I got diagnosed with ADHD.
With that, because obviously you mentioned like your age, and obviously that's quite a significant portion of life, isn't it? Like obviously, I mean, we're all in our 30s now, and obviously I didn't go through my mental health kind of struggle until obviously I was in my 30s either. But it was like, well, actually, why do you think it was kind of took you that long?
I had no clue I had it. It was never brought up to me. And now, like I think anyone who gets a late diagnosis with a neurodivergency, you look back and you're like, oh, that was what all of that was. My boyfriend was doing a lot of research online. He lost both of his parents over lockdown from cancer, not COVID, but it was all very quick. We kind of didn't see it coming. And he was just in a dark place, and He was spending a lot of time online, and he was like, I think I might be autistic. Hand to God, and listeners at home, this is not how you react. I was literally like, you're not autistic, you're just English. And
Whoa. Hang
I
on a
talk
minute.
about it on stage. I totally talk about it on stage.
Oh my God.
And
I made one comment about pumpkin spice latte. I did not deserve that.
But I was like, no, I was like, you couldn't, you know, and at the time I didn't know a lot about autism, you know. I didn't know, I just didn't know a lot about it. And he did get an assessment, and he is autistic, and I did a lot of apologizing. And he was like, I think you might have ADHD. And again, I was like, I don't think I have it, because when I was a kid, I was assessed for learning disabilities and it never came up. And this has been in my head since I was like very young. The doctor was like, there's nothing wrong with her. She's just a bit slow. And so my entire life, I've just been like, I'm just slow. That's just it. I'm just slow. And Tom was like, you're not, I don't know how many ways to tell you, you're not slow. Like, that's not the issue. And I was like, we actually like had like a fight about it. And finally he was like, you talk all the time about how you feel like you let yourself down, how you can't get done the things you want to do, how much you want to do stuff, but how paralyzed you feel all the time. And you're always frustrated. When are you going to get help? Are you going to wait another 10 years and be in your 40s and then do it? Are you going to wait 20 years and be in your 50s? Like, just go to the doctor now. See if you have it. And if you don't have it, you don't have it. And maybe it's something else. But just go to the doctor. So I went. And but yeah, I think if it wasn't for my boyfriend, I still wouldn't know. And I think going back to like when I said, like, I grew up in a household where we always pretended everything was fine. It's like I've just adjusted to like this idea of like, even though I may horribly struggle with what might be considered a very easy task for some people, like outwardly I'm like, no, I can do it. That's no big deal. Yeah. And then you go home and you're just rocking back and forth. You're like, why can't I send an email?
What is this?
Yeah.
I'm like that every time I join a Zoom call. Literally, I've been doing this for 2 years and still I'm like, what am I doing? And I think that's why I wave when like my guests join, because it still says like connecting to audio. So I'm like waiting for it to like stop saying connected to audio. So I just wave. Weirdos, the lot of us. But I kind of want to jump back a little bit when you said like, you know, like growing up and stuff like that. And you even mentioned about you being a yoga teacher.
Instructor, yeah.
Instructor.
Teacher. You say they're interchangeable words to me.
That's an absolute weirdo. But what made that jump from yoga into comedy? Have you always had a taste for it, or did you just...
No, it's not as extreme as everyone thinks it is. So I moved to New York to study musical theater.
Okay.
And I did that. And when I was studying musical theater, on my walk to school, I would pass a yoga studio, specifically Bikram yoga, which is the hot yoga. Yes, I've seen the documentary. Yes, I've met him. No, he didn't to me. And answer all those questions right now. Yes, he did to other people. Believe the women. Anyway, I just signed up and started taking class there. And I practiced yoga all through my college. And then when I graduated with a musical theater degree, you always need something to fall back on. Because I don't know if you notice it, but actors don't work a lot, especially when they just leave school. And so I got certified as a yoga instructor. And the plan was to, you know, teach yoga and audition for stuff. And then on a whim, me and a friend went to an open mic just to see what it was. And that was my first time doing stand-up. And there was just this, like, I mean, I thought I killed, but I bombed. Like everyone who does stand-up for the first time, you're like, I did amazing. It's you're horrible. And, but anyways, but that first time on stage, I was like, oh, this is it. This is what I want to do. Because, you know, with musical theater or theater in general, you've got to rely on so many people. You need a pianist, you need a director, you need to get hired. But for stand up, especially like open mics, Tim, you'll know it's just like either you show up with your notebook or you don't. You don't have to organize a lot of stuff around it. So I started doing that, and now it's my job.
Why do you think yoga is such a good connection with mental health? Like, why does that like go hand in hand? I feel like a lot of people into mental health like just love doing yoga.
I first of all, I think it drops you down in your body and out of your head, which is always a really good thing. Um, unlike some unlike a sport, there's no measurement against other people. You know what I mean? I mean, you can do it in yoga. I mean, I got deep down the well. But it's, you know, you're on your mat. It's just you can be as gentle in your practice as you want, or as challenging in your practice as you want. So it's easy to adjust day to day. Whereas like if you're like, so I also like to go running, but the thing with running is some days I feel up for running 3 miles and some days I don't. And it's really hard. And if, you know, you get a mile in and you're like, today's not my day. And then I'm like, well, I'll just walk around the park instead. I shouldn't, you know, you shouldn't, but you feel a little like, ugh, I couldn't do it today. Whereas like if I step on a yoga mat and I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this really difficult high level sequence today, and it's not your day, you can go, oh, I'll just pull all of this back to the basics. And you're still doing yoga. Like you're either running or you're walking. Those are two different things. Yeah. If you're doing a handstand or you're doing downward dog, you're still doing yoga. And I think
I think you can relate that to quite a lot of things as well, though, can't you? Because it doesn't have to be as difficult as quite a lot of us, especially obviously if we're facing some kind of trouble. If you intend to go for a run and you don't then end up running, quite a lot of us would give ourselves such a hard time for not doing that run. But the fact that you could still then walk, I might actually try yoga. I've never even considered it to be a thing to try.
Oh, you should try it for sure. I love it. It was like when I first did it, I couldn't even touch my toes, and then now I'm like super flexible too. It's such like it makes me feel tall as a short guy. So when I start stretching, I'm like, oh, I get like a half an inch now. I'm like, I'm pretty good.
And it's always something that you can do at any age too. I remember one time when I was doing comedy, but I'd still teach every once in a while. Now I don't teach at all, but there's a yoga studio in Melbourne, Australia, in Fitzroy. I can't remember their names. I think one of them might have actually passed away now. But the two older people own the yoga studio. And I was taking one of their classes, and the guy was, or maybe it was when they took me out to lunch. It doesn't matter when they told me this. But
were they wearing Uggs?
Yeah, see?
As soon as you said Australia, I was like, wait for it. Wait for a few moments.
My head brought right into it.
No, but it was the cooler months of Australia, so we did drink pumpkin spice.
Oh.
Wow. Full circle.
We went to brunch, and if you've never had brunch in Australia, it is the best brunch you've ever had. But they were like, we discovered yoga when we were in our 50s, and now I think at the time they were in their 60s or maybe their 70s. And they're like, we were both just so happy because we found something that we can do together forever. And like, you know, like I used to teach in New York. Some of my students were the New York City Rockettes, prima ballerinas, Jonathan Groff. And, but
no way.
Yeah.
Is he the guy from Glee?
Yeah. No. Sorry, he's not the guy from Glee. He is the guy who plays Sven. He voices Finn in Frozen.
Frozen. Yes.
Well, no, he wasn't. Was he in Glee? He's Leah Michelle's best friend in real life. I think he might have been in Glee for a bit, but he wasn't one of the core people. But like,
that's cool.
My point is like, people can go and practice yoga who are like professional athletes. Like, some of my students could do things with their bodies that I could never dream in my life. And then there are also like, we all leave that part of our lives. Like kids, if you're young, listening in, it fades. Like your physical abilities will fade. I'm starting to see it. It's happening now, and I'm fine with it. But you can still do yoga. You just you might not do again as an advanced practice. I don't know. I think that's nice. I think that's why people gravitate towards it.
I think it's really healthy to talk about like coping mechanisms as well, though, because obviously in the UK, like the minute I went to the doctors about like my mental health, I was like, I'll go for a walk, try meditation, which straight away I was like, I don't want to do those things. But it wasn't until I was having these kind of conversations where I was actually like, well, okay, I'm going to give it a go. Whereas now, like, I journal like pretty much like every day just to kind of get like what's in my head out. Tim, what are your go-tos when it comes to like, if you're having like a bit of a day of it, like what do you turn to?
Just aggressively crying. No, I've been trying to run more myself. Running and going for walks where it's funny that you say that. When someone like suggests it to you, you're like, no, like I don't want to do that. But like when your peers or your friends are doing it, like, yeah, sounds like a great idea. It works for you. It's like, yeah, the whole thing, it's like getting enough water, getting enough sleep. It's like all the basic needs that I don't need to hear, but like you need to do that. And it's tough. I'd say, yeah, I keep it simple. Like I love naps. I love being lazy. I think that's really good for me. But getting out is a huge one. Like I have like such like social anxiety sometimes, even for like my personality. Like I have to be with friends, but when I'm by myself, I get so anxious. So when I know, like today I went food shopping and went out, like I felt great. I was like, I got out, the weather was nice. So like the nice weather is a huge one for me too. But like when you battle, when it comes like winter depression, that's when you have to like turn it up a notch and start like really pushing yourself to make sure you don't fall into those dark holes. So exercising is a big one for me. Training jujitsu, like that, those are big ones for like actively moving.
Love that. One of my biggest coping mechanisms, which is kind of the basis of the show, is music. Now, I love these questions that I'm about to ask you both because I like to kind of see where the thought process goes to it. But we all kind of like to throw some shapes when it comes to like the dance floor and stuff. What songs need to be playing to get you both on the dance floor?
Ooh, you go first.
I mean, I like pop, I like Lizzo. I like, Beyonce. And I don't know why, but Lizzo just feels like I'm like, oh, if I ever met Lizzo, I bet like she'd be one of my girls. And I'm like, I bet if I met Beyonce, she'd be real polite.
Yeah, super polite.
And never, like, she wouldn't be like, sorry, how do you say your name again? She'd be like, thank you for coming. But yeah, I really like pop music a lot. And then just like classic rock and roll is super fun as well.
Like that. Tim, hit me with it.
I like the pop music. You throw on some Kesha, Pitbull. I know you're a big Pitbull guy.
I'm a big Pitbull fan.
Yeah, and then you get like you throw some Spice Girls in there, some Michelle Branch. I'll be getting out there too.
Oh, I forgot about Michelle Branch.
Oh, how could you? There's Michelle Branch and Vanessa Carlton. It's like you can just go either way and have like a good time.
I am adding them to the Spotify right now.
Because you're everywhere to me. I'll get up there and put my hands up. But then like if you throw in some like Casey and the Sunshine Band or Earth, Wind and Fire, like the Let's Groove Tonight. Let's Groove Tonight. I like anything that gets your shoulders just like shaking. I'll go up there. and let it out. I love dancing is a big one for me. Music and dancing is like how you let it out, and I love dancing. I'm not good at it, but I'm a great wedding like partner to go with.
Oh,
Joe, I'm still gutted that we still didn't go for that beer.
Yes.
I was supposed to be moving to New York in the pandemic to host a podcast for a psychiatrist in America, in New York to be precise. It all kind of collapsed, and to a point where I actually feel like I was being groomed. Like it was all very
weird.
all very weird. Yes.
Oh,
To get me
dear.
into New York, they wanted to send me to Mexico for 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, that's sketchy. I
yeah,
didn't know that,
yeah.
dude.
Yeah, a lot has happened.
If
Weird.
okay, as someone who's just recently spent a long time in an immigration cycle, now going to the U.S. is arguably different than staying here, but there are legal routes in. And if someone just says first you got to go to Mexico for 2 weeks, that's not one of
Yeah.
them. That
we got to a stage. There was one day, it was like 11 o'clock at night here in the UK, and I had a knock at the door, and I was like, literally in my pajamas, about to go to bed, and I opened the door, and it was an Uber Eats guy delivering a litre bottle of gin and a bottle of Dom Perignon champagne that they had sent just because.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't go, man. That probably would have been the last time we saw you.
Go. Yeah. I mean, it all worked out in the end. But
yeah, because you didn't do the project.
Yeah, that sounds like a scam. Like, oh man.
Yeah. I had an office on Wall Street and everything. It was great. Never went.
Did you? Did you though?
But another question though, especially from the music side of things, do there need to be songs? Because I have a weird emotional connection when it comes to music, especially obviously us Brits love a Dow. You know, she pulls on the heartstrings. So, you know, we like to pretend on a rainy day to look outside and pretend we're in a music video. Are there any songs that kind of, it's like someone's holding an onion in front of you that brings the tears?
So like when you asked about music, you said what gets you on the dance floor. So I named dancing music, but in reality, what I listen to a lot is musical theater, and Somewhere That's Green from Little Shop of Horrors is the saddest song anyone has ever sung, ever. You're nodding, Tim. Do you know the song? Do you know what it's about?
I know the movie. I don't know the song.
So you both are just like Taylor's like, okay. So basically, this woman, it's a sci-fi musical comedy with a talking plant that then goes to space. So naturally,
it was the plaid one.
This woman is being abused. This is
Terrible hay fever.
Yeah. No, but she's in this abusive relationship, right? And she's starting to fall for this other guy, Seymour, the lead in the musical. And she sings this song called Somewhere That's Green, where she talks about she dreams of a place away from Skid Row, away from this abusive thing. And I'm gonna cry. The lyrics are like a track house of our own, a track house of our own, like she wants like a 9-inch TV. She want like everything she wants is the most simplest basic thing, and if anything, it's a little like low class, and that's what makes it so sad. Is that like all she wants is just the basics of life. Like she doesn't want anything more. She doesn't want big furs. She doesn't want a big house. She just wants the smallest basic little life, and it makes me cry every fucking time. And when people perform it, because she's in a sling, right? Because she's her husband like beat the shit out of her. At the very end, she goes Somewhere That's Green. I'm not gonna try to sing it, but she goes Somewhere That's Green.
Oh, go on.
And the actors always like reach out for something, like as if they're reaching, and it's just the saddest thing.
Do you ever reach back?
Yeah. I sing it when I'm like listening to it. Like I look mad when I'm walking down the street because I'll mouth words to songs that are playing. So I'll just be really sadly like going
Love
over it.
that. I love music does this to you though.
Yep.
Hey, what makes you cry?
Who, me? You asking me now?
Yes, your name's Tim.
Oh, my bad. So again, I'm a huge Kesha fan, and this song, I don't think it's even about like what I think it's about. I think it's like about like Ruth Bader Ginsburg or like women's empowerment. But the first set of like let's say bars, I don't know what they call them, like set of lyrics is song "Here Comes the Change," and it goes with it goes, "One day I'll be gone, the world will be keep turning. I hope I leave this place better than I found it. It's hard. I know it's hard to be lightning in the dark. Hold on tight. You'll be all right. You know it's time." And that always hit me like in a different way, even though I think the song's about like women empowerment, which is, we all need that. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Feminists right here. But that always like hit me back. So I would listen to that song when I was super depressed and super suicidal ideations. And like that song always hits me in the feels, and it's on one of my playlists, and I got to hit skip like right away. If I'm going to like work or something, I'm like, I can't even listen to this right now. I'm like, I don't have time. But like on a rainy day, driving by myself, looking out the window, like, yeah, I'll throw that on.
A song I can no longer listen to that just like every time it's like you have to hit is Good Riddance by Green Day.
Yeah, that's that one's we're the same age. I think they played that at like my middle school graduation.
Okay, see, again, country girl. I don't want to brag, but there's a lot of people who died tragically around my year. And every time someone our age died, because like I said, I think we're the same age, they'd play Good Riddance. Either someone would sing it at the school assembly to
God.
honor them, or it would be at the funeral. And now whenever I hear that dude, that guitar, I'm like, fuck no, I can't do it.
Yep.
Ah, I've loved this. Honestly, I didn't know how this was going to pan out, but honestly, my face is aching from like smiling.
No, what's another sad song, and it's like it's like the smartest song of all time. She must be making trillions off it, and it's from graduation from like middle school. Is Vitamin C Graduation? Because in middle school, you didn't think you'd ever see these kids again. You're like, I'm going to high school with you next year. But Vitamin C, the graduation song, has to be the smartest song of all time because it's played every year at like every school at graduation. You know what I'm
What
saying?
you're talking about?
You don't know that song?
No, we don't graduate in the UK.
What do you
Wait.
guys do?
Wait, back up.
Yeah, we don't.
How have I missed this?
Yeah, we don't have like a graduation or anything.
Not even when you leave, like when you go from whatever it's called into college or university.
No, we're just like whoop on to the next.
You have
guys
no
know, like-
ceremony?
Straight down the mines.
Oh my God!
It's your
You put in
fault.
all that hard work, and they're like, "All right, good luck."
Yeah, I think no. If you go to university, obviously you have like I think you kind of get like, yeah, oh yeah, no, it would be a graduation then.
Oh, here we
Yeah,
go.
no, you would graduate.
Okay, good.
I
was gonna
didn't
say, I was like,
graduate,
we-
clearly.
oh,
I didn't.
We graduate all the time in freaking America. We graduated from elementary school.
Yep.
We graduate from high school. Some people graduate from junior high. We did not. You graduate from university. We just love to graduate.
Yeah. Hence the song, graduation. I'll send it to
Exactly.
Yeah, send it over because I might have myself a little ceremony after this.
You deserve it.
Because I
you.
do
Just a rolled up
deserve
piece of
it.
paper.
Yeah, I worked really hard.
Yeah.
For what? For a what? I'm sat in front of a fucking waffle.
Yeah.
We got to send you a little square cap.
Yeah, we do.
Thank you. They're quite expensive, apparently.
I have no memory of how much it costs.
Yeah, I don't think.
I didn't
how
even
many
go to
pounds is that?
university. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I'm just chatting shit now.
I like remember like when you got your graduation cap. I don't know about you, Tim, but it was like supposed to be such a precious thing. And it's like in the tassel, because the tassel had the school colors on it, and like it had a little charm of the year you graduated. I have no fucking clue if that exists anymore.
I still have mine. I
No
know where
way.
I swear to God, I can go find it. I can't go find it. My mom's a hoarder, and she gave me all of her stuff, so I'm a hoarder now, and I have like all this stupid stuff, and that's one of them.
Oh, amazing.
It's all over your wall.
Yeah, I know. This is so much.
This is
I
the first
did-
painting I ever did.
I did
Yeah,
half
yeah.
expect when you were like, I have it. I thought you were just gonna reach
Reach
over. You mean this?
Because I've been waiting for this
That would
moment.
have been awesome. That would have been awesome.
Oh my god.
What, Taylor? What's the song that makes you cry?
Oh, every song makes me cry.
Oh,
I'm very in touch with my emotions. Yeah, Javed, the song that kind of gets me at the moment is Free by Cat Burns. And if you had to, but she's a UK singer, obviously, check her out. And there's a few of her songs at the moment, especially there's even another one called Ghosting, and it's about kind of like, I promise, like, I'm not ghosting you. I just kind of need to work on myself a little bit. And I don't know what it is at the moment. They're just even talking about it. I've got like a whoop. So yeah, that at the moment. But other than that, Adele was like the last gig I went to, like with my mom before she had an operation that went horrifically wrong. And I mean, she's still here. She's an absolute fucking nightmare. Like,
dear, I thought this was going a completely different direction on the mental health podcast.
Oh
Good
no, it's
riddance,
the
that's
reason
playing.
I have mental health issues is because of what happened.
Yeah.
But I don't laugh about it now. I look for the positives rather than negatives. That's what I do.
Mhm.
But the last proper gig I went to with my mom was Adele, and there's a song called Sweetest Devotion, and she sings it about her son when he was first born. And even again, look, it's happening. Talking about it, yeah, it kind of, I think it sums up mine and my mom's relationship, and still to this day, it kind of still sums us up. So that's a song that I tend to avoid. It's a skipper, but it's beautiful. Oh, we're having such a positive time, and now I feel like I'm going to cry. Oh, honestly, the pair of you have been exceptional. Thank you. Wait, hang on. Before we do all this kind of like the sign off, tours, what's going on? Where are you going? Doing anything?
Nope. Goodbye. I was never here. I'm not on tour right now, but like I'm playing clubs and colleges all over the country. I'm playing a lot of clubs, and all of my dates are on my website, abigoliah.com. I also have a podcast, a brag, called Neurodivergent Moments, because we wanted to make sure no one could spell it. And but it's
Neurodivergent.
Yeah. Neurodivergent Moments podcast. I do it with my buddy Joe Wells, and I have ADHD, he is autistic, and we talk to other neurodiverse creative people about the little moments that reminds us our brains are wired differently. So yeah, so it's about neurodiversity. Divergency, excuse me.
You can't even say it. It's your show.
The first episode is just me and Joe talking, and one thing he really wanted to do was talk about the vocabulary around neurodivergency and the difference between neurodivergency and neurodiversity. And he was like, I'm really uncomfortable because I feel like I'm mansplaining this to you. And I'm like, no, we need to do this now, otherwise I'm going to get us canceled in like 4 podcasts.
It's a genuine fear of mine.
It's hard when you fall into go into the mental health and neurodivergency world, because like you want to do right, but people can be very sensitive if you use the wrong language.
And they will come for you as well.
Yeah. Rightly so to be sensitive, but sometimes we need to be educating each other with a kind heart.
Yep.
What a beautiful way to sign off the episode.
Yeah.
Make sure I will add the links in everywhere, obviously, so people can check you out. And the same with 22 minutes. I always feel like I'm saying it wrong, but that's...
No, you nailed it. 22 minutes.
I know, but sometimes when I see it takes me a minute.
Some people think it's 20 TI minutes. Like I talk about the rapper TI for 20 minutes. Yeah, it's 22 minutes.
Oh, you should do that. That's the thing.
I know. I really should. I should just do a strictly TI episode.
You could get whatever you like.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's a TI song. Anyway, chatting shit. Right. Thank you both for joining me. I've absolutely loved it. And I feel like we've touched upon some great subjects. So if you've liked it, hit subscribe and all that shite. See you soon.